Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the New York City Council hearing on the Committee on Civil Service and Labor, joint with Fire and Emergency Management and Public Safety. At this time, please silence all electronics and do not approach the dais. I repeat, please do not approach the dais at this time. If you are testifying, make sure you also have filled out a slip with the Sergeant at Arms. And if you have any questions, you could also contact the Sergeant at Arms chairs. You may begin.
Welcome to today's hearing of the New York City Council's Committee on Civil Service and Labor. I am Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, Chair of the committee. I am joined by Councilmember and Minority Leader Joanna Ariola, Chair of the Fire and Emergency Management Committee, as well as Councilmember Yusuf Salam, Chair of the Committee on Public Safety. Today's hearing is focused on working conditions for our city's 911 emergency response workers, who work tirelessly to deliver aid to New Yorkers in their times of crisis. Each year, the city's 911 operators receive over 7 million calls. These calls set in motion a variety of emergency responses and protocols, which are coordinated across thousands of first responders. The NYPD's 911 dispatchers, or police communication technicians, must make assessments about which teams to contact for each specific emergency, ranging from emergency medical units, firefighters, patrol officers, team of social workers, or behavioral health professionals. However, these individuals dedicate their lives to responding to the needs of New Yorkers. Unfortunately, many of these roles are not met with guarantees of fair pay and working conditions, and they deserve for their service. Despite working in high-stress roles and high incidences of traumatic experiences, many workers are barely making above minimum wage. Additionally, emergency medical responders, including paramedics and emergency medical technicians, have faced chronic understaffing, high attrition, and mandatory overtime for the past 3 years, all while working without a contract. Despite promises from then candidate Eric Adams during his mayoral campaign that EMS workers would receive improvements to their pay, no such agreement has come to fruition. Before we begin, I want to express our collective disappointment that the Office of Labor Relations has declined to testify today. While we recognize that labor negotiations are confidential, OLR plays a central role in ensuring that essential workers receive fair contracts and working conditions. Their participation today would have provided valuable insights into the city's ongoing efforts to address the longstanding challenges facing these employees. We share the frustrations of many of our emergency workers and are deeply discouraged that this administration, in its final days, has chosen to not engage with this council on such a critical issue affecting those who protect and serve New Yorkers. This job is hard. The questions are hard, but this council has a responsibility to come up with answers for the issues that are plaguing our city. And the fact that this administration continues to disrespect this council by not sending a full panel to answer our questions is truly disappointing and egregious. The council is committed to ensuring that our city's emergency responders are guaranteed good working conditions and fair pay, that they are met with good faith bargaining practices, and that their titles are fully staffed and ready to meet the moment for any New Yorker who needs assistance. We look forward to a productive hearing today, and I hope to learn more about both the challenges and solutions for the problems facing our city's heroes. I'd like to thank committee staff, Senior Policy Analyst Elizabeth Arts, and Senior Legislative Counsel Ria Asawara for their hard work in preparing for this hearing. I'd also like to thank my staff, Chief of Staff James Burke, Legislative Director Kiana Diaz, and Communications Director Frey Familia for their hard work. Furthermore, we recognize that on the Civil Service and Labor Committee, we've been joined by Council Members Marte, Dinowitz, Caban, Felder, Salam, and I know there's some others that are here that are part of the Fire Emergency Management Committee as well. I now turn to Chair Ariola for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Chair, and I align myself with your comments regarding this administration and the absence of OLR at this hearing. Good morning and welcome to this hearing of the Committee on Fire and Emergency Management, meeting jointly with the Committees on Public Safety and Civil Service and Labor. I am Chairperson Joanna Ariola, and I represent the 32nd Council District in Queens. I would like to thank my co-chairs, Chair Salam and Chair De La Rosa, for holding this hearing today. I would also like to recognize the members of Fire and Emergency Management Committee who are currently present. One is Chair De La Rosa, and another is new to our committee. Welcome, Council Member Simcha Felder. Today, the committee will be examining an issue that has been the center of the committee for numerous years, which is the working conditions of our first responders. Our firefighters have been doing work that is nothing short of heroes. They risk their lives every day to protect New Yorkers from fires and other hazardous conditions. We want to take a look at our bravest working conditions, specifically housing, improvements on gear, and any challenges that are faced by the department as it relates to working conditions. As previously stated by my colleague, our city's 911 dispatchers receive over 7 million calls. Often, our medical and fire dispatchers are overworked with long shifts, and yet they work tirelessly to keep our city safe and help those in need. We look forward to hearing specific concerns when it comes to taking our city's calls in the 911 system. Additionally, EMS has historically been affected by numerous areas of alarm regarding attrition, overtime usage of EMS workers as a result in multiple consecutive shifts, assaults on EMS workers, and above all, EMS pay parity. EMS salaries should be comparable to their counterparts in the FDNY and NYPD. By remedying this long-standing pay disparity, the city would help provide equality among EMS and other emergency medical personnel. With that said, we look forward to hearing testimony from the administration on this topic and exploring how this council can continue its dedication in delivering world-class emergency responses to New Yorkers and our city's visitors. I will now turn the microphone back over to Chair De La Rosa.
Thank you so much, Chair. We've also been joined by Councilmember Morano as well as Councilmember Holden. I now turn over to Chair Salam for his statement on his resolution.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Yusuf Salam, Chair to the Committee on Public Safety. I want to welcome everyone and thank my colleagues, Chair De La Rosa of Civil Service and Labor, and Chair Ariola of Fire and Emergency Management for co-chairing this very important joint oversight hearing on working conditions within the New York City's emergency response system. We are joined by Public Safety Committee members Marte, Holden, and Caban. From a public safety perspective, the issues we will discuss today go to the very heart of how our city responds in moments of crisis. When a New Yorker dials 911, whether they are reporting a crime, a fire, or emergency medical situation, their first point of contact is often a police communications technician, commonly referred to as a 911 operator or dispatcher. These professionals answer our calls for help, triage emergencies, and coordinate with fire and EMS to direct police, fire, and EMS units, personnel, and equipment emergencies. The accuracy, speed, and judgment of these operators are vital to saving lives and getting help to the public. In recent years, we have seen troubling signs that the system is under strain. Reports from dispatchers, union leaders, and oversight entities point to staffing shortages, excessive mandatory overtime, and burnout among 911 operators. These conditions affect workers and threaten the reliability and the timeliness of the city's entire emergency response network. We have also heard concerns about delayed or mishandled 911 responses during major incidents, operators working 16-hour shifts, and a growing reliance on overtime to fill essential coverage gaps. These are not just labor issues, they are public safety issues. When our emergency call system is stretched thin, it directly impacts how quickly help arrives when New Yorkers need it most. Additionally, we want to discuss NYPD's continued challenges with overall headcount, recruitment, and retention of uniformed officers, and consider how these pressures compound one another. From the moment a 911 call is received to when officers are dispatched on the ground, ensuring adequate staffing, proper working conditions, and modernized support systems for both dispatchers and responding officers is critical to maintaining the public safety. Today, this committee wants to better understand the scope of these challenges. We want to know how the NYPD is addressing staff shortages among operators and officers and ensuring that they are not overworked or fatigued and adequately staffed. We also want to hear what safeguards are in place to ensure that emergency calls, including those related to mental health, are answered and triaged accurately without delay. Our goal is to understand how the department plans to stabilize both its civilian and uniform workforce so that New Yorkers can count on timely and effective emergency responses. I thank all our witnesses and participants for being here today, and we look forward to a thoughtful and constructive discussion. I'll now turn it back to Chair De La Rosa.
Thank you so much, Chair Salam. We will now hear testimony from representatives of the NYPD and the FDNY. I turn the committee counsel to administer the oath for this panel.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair De La Rosa, Chair Ariola, Chair Salam, and members of the council. I'm Assistant Chief Richard Napolitano, Commanding Officer of the Office of the First Deputy Commissioner of the New York City Police Department. I'm joined today by Inspector Benvenido Martinez, Commanding Officer of the department's Communications Division, as well as our partners from the New York City Fire Department. On behalf of Police Commissioner Tisch, we thank you for the opportunity to discuss the critical services provided by the department's police communication technicians, or PCTs, who serve as the department's 911 call operators. Under Commissioner Tisch, the department has taken substantial steps to reduce call delays in the 911 system times while simultaneously enhancing the quality of life for our PCTs. We look forward to sharing with you the significant strides we have made towards both of these goals. PCTs serve as the hub for the department's daily efforts to ensure public safety. As 911 call takers, they serve as the first point of contact for New Yorkers in moments of stress, agony, and sometimes terror. The 911 call takers then share vital information with the PCTs serving as dispatchers to generate a rapid and effective police response. All of this must be done quickly, accurately, and with sensitivity to the needs of witnesses and victims calling for help. This is demanding and stressful work, and the department has a responsibility to ensure the health and welfare of our PCTs. This is why one of Commissioner Tisch's earliest priorities as police commissioner was to optimize the efficiency of the call-taking system, expedite hiring, bolster training, and improve the quality of life of our PCTs. The most important step has been to increase staffing levels. We have hired over 200 PCTs since April. With another class expected before the end of the year, we are on track to far surpass 2023 and 2024 PCT hiring. We analyzed where inefficiencies existed in our deployment of PCTs and discovered that certain tours were understaffed while others were overstaffed. These mistakes have been corrected. We found particular staffing challenges for PCTs working 10-hour and 12-hour tours, so we reintroduced the 8-hour tours for PCTs. We also created a voluntary overtime sign-up system and allowed PCTs to swap tours as necessary. This ensures flexibility and allows PCTs to better schedule their days. These adjustments helped our PCTs and simultaneously resulted in a reduction in call delays. Between January and the end of September 2024, there were 189,343 delayed calls, and in the same time period in 2025, there was 108,421 delayed calls, a 42.7% decrease year-to-date. Year over year, looking at September 2024 compared to September 2025, we decreased call delays by 87%. Now the department answers 92% of calls within 5 seconds and 98% of calls within 30 seconds. For comparison, the established national standard for 911 calls is that 90% should be answered within 15 seconds. We also realized that we needed additional supervisory oversight in the 911 system. We now require a supervisor to review response times every 2 hours and to make real-time decisions about staffing and job assignment. What that means, for example, is that when a call comes over and there are no nearby units available to respond, the desk sergeant is alerted to the delay, and we will either redirect a call that is responding to a less critical job or reach out to an adjoining precinct for assistance. This small change helps quickly direct responses to emergencies and drive down response times. The department is also taking steps to improve working conditions for PCTs and boost morale. We are having regular meetings with DC 37 and Local 5911, the unions representing the PCTs, to understand the concerns of PCTs and affirmatively address them. We are working to update and modernize the 911 call centers where PCTs work. We are taking steps to recognize our top-performing PCTs for their outstanding efforts. And we are making sure that when a PCT experiences a traumatic call, that the PCT is able to take a break from the phones and has mental health resources available to provide support. The PCTs are so important to the department and to the people of New York City, and we must continue to provide them with resources and support. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Good morning, Chair Ariola and members of the Fire Emergency Management Committee, Chair De La Rosa and members of the Civil Service and Labor Committee, and Chair Salam and members of the Public Safety Committee. My name is Paul Miano, and I am the acting honored to spend part of it here with the council members who sit in these committees.
Congratulations and
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Very much so.
I am joined by Denise Werner, Chief of Emergency Medical Dispatch. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this oversight topic, an issue that directly affects the men and women who continuously give life to this city. Working conditions within New York City's emergency response system. FDNY EMTs and paramedics are amongst the hardest working people in city service. They work long, demanding tours, moving from emergency to emergency, providing medical care and saving lives hour after hour. Ambulances cover every corner of New York City and its surrounding waters, responding everywhere from the tallest high-rise above to the deepest tunnels. Each member is assigned to a station where they report at the start of their tour, and then head to a pre-designated cross-street location within the surrounding neighborhood. But the reality is they go wherever the calls for medical assistance takes them. On a busy day, a crew can transport a patient to a hospital and be called into action again before they even leave the ambulance bay. It is not uncommon for EMS members to start their tour in one borough and finish it in another, never once seeing their assigned cross-street location. In a recent tour I spent on an ambulance with one of my crews, I responded to calls in 3 different boroughs myself. My priority is always the safety of our members. The reality is that EMS work often puts them in dangerous situations. EMTs and paramedics walk into the unknown on every single call, inside homes, out on the streets, below in the subways, anywhere someone needs help. They face situations that can turn unpredictable fast. At any moment, they can be confronted with a combative patient, distraught family members, or a chaotic crowd. During these moments, our members are threatened, and too often, we train FDNY EMTs and paramedics to stay safe in every situation they face. From their first day on the job and throughout their careers, they receive ongoing instruction focused on recognizing and managing danger. That includes how to deal with aggressive patients, false calls intended to lure members, and how to recognize potential threats to the city and our homeland. We teach them to size up a scene before they ever step out of the vehicle, maintain situational awareness to never separate and keep in constant communication with their partners, identify an escape route, and stay alert to everything happening around them. Our members are taught to clear exit paths, keep a safe distance from onlookers, and take control of the scene. They are also trained in tactical communication, knowing how to talk to people under stress, how to de-escalate volatile situations, and how to keep themselves and others safe. While EMS members train and prepare for every imaginable scenario, tragedies still occur. In the last 9 years, 2 of our own have lost their lives to senseless acts of violence while serving the people of the city. In 2017, EMT Yadira Arroyo, a 14-year veteran, was murdered by an individual who hijacked her ambulance. In 2022, Captain Allison Russo, a 24-year veteran, was murdered in an unprovoked knife attack. We mourn their loss and the losses of all of our members who have died in the line of duty, including those who have been victims of vehicular accidents like Andre Lehens, communicable diseases like Tracy Allen Lee, cardiac events like Barbara Papo, and injuries sustained while caring for others like Brendan Pearson. Today and every day, their memory and their legacy continue to drive the department's commitment to keeping every member safe. EMS members are trained to check premise histories of an address when available before they arrive so they have a better sense of the NYPD partners, and our EMTs and paramedics know that they can immediately call for help if they encounter weapons, acts of violence, or if the tone of a scene begins to turn aggressive. Members are trained to recognize when a situation may become unsafe and to act quickly by calling for assistance, communicating with dispatchers who can alert nearby units, and in the worst cases, removing themselves completely from danger. We know that not every scene is going to be an ideal circumstance. However, when we approach a situation, EMTs and paramedics ask themselves, is the scene safe enough? That is why the department works to make sure every member has the training, awareness, and support they need to complete their tour safely and go home afterward, unharmed, to their families. Beyond physical danger, the work of an EMT or paramedic takes a heavy mental, emotional toll. Our members operate in high-pressure situations where every decision they make can mean the difference between life and death. They are expected to be the calm in the midst of chaos. Day after day, they witness tragedy, trauma, and loss while trying to comfort people who are experiencing the worst moments of their lives. It can be even harder when the person in need is one of our own or another first responder. When a police officer or a firefighter is injured, it is my members who come to their aid. Carrying the weight of being the difference between life and death for both civilians and fellow first responders can take a serious toll, leading to stress, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. To support our members, the department has built a strong network of mental health resources through our counseling service unit known as CSU. Established more than 35 years ago, CSU has become a national model for first responder mental health care. It is staffed by FDNY members, volunteers, and licensed mental health professionals who understand the unique pressures of this work. The team includes social workers, counselors, and for those in the World Trade Center health programs, psychiatrists and nurses. Every clinician is trained in specialized therapies such as eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which treats post-traumatic stress, and emotionally focused therapy, which helps members process intense emotional responses. CSU provides evaluation, treatment, and referrals through the 5 locations across the city. Members can connect in person or by phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and every service is free and completely confidential. In addition to clinical support, the department runs a peer-to-peer program that connects current and retired FDNY members directly and now operates 2 full tours of trained peers who are available 5 days a week. We have even added a therapy dog. Peer members visit stations throughout the year and service as proactive outreach, often bridging the gap between a member who is struggling and the professional help they may need. While CSU teams routinely visit EMS stations, they are also called upon to respond after major incidents such as a line-of-duty death or a serious injury, a major vehicle collision, a mass casualty event, or a pediatric cardiac arrest or pediatric abuse call. Peer support members go to the scene, to hospitals, and to EMS stations to offer immediate support and then follow up as needed in the ensuing days and weeks. It can be difficult for a first responder to ask for help. In the past, doing so may have been viewed by some as a form of weakness, but Commissioner Tucker has made it a priority to change that mindset. He has emphasized the importance of destigmatizing mental health care and building a department philosophy that encourages members to reach out before a problem becomes a crisis. CSU staff speak regularly at the EMS Academy, meeting with new EMTs, paramedics, and officers to reinforce that seeking support is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Through continued leadership, education, and normalizing healthcare, we are working to make mental health as much a part of our readiness as our physical and operational safety training. EMS offers multiple career paths for our members. Most begin their service as EMTs and can advance through civil service promotion exams to become paramedics. Once paramedics, they can move into supervisory ranks such as lieutenant, captain, and chief. Others choose to take the civil service exam to become firefighters. Chair Ariola is very familiar with that process, having sponsored legislation that addressed an issue of fairness for EMS members who missed the firefighter exam because of COVID-related delays. The FDNY is grateful for her continued support for our workforce. Another issue that council members have raised in prior hearings is EMS pay. I have discussed through my testimony the work of an EMT or paramedic, that the work of an EMT and paramedic is demanding, both physically and emotionally. Every day they respond to critical emergencies, make life or death decisions, and represent this department with professionalism and compassion. I wear the paramedic patch on my uniform's right shoulder with pride, and I have witnessed and experienced firsthand the burden carried by our EMTs and paramedics. When New Yorkers call 911 because they fear their health or even their lives, it is EMS members who respond and use our formidable skills and training to give each patient his or her best hope for recovery. Compensation for that expertise is not determined by the FDNY. It is established through collective bargaining with the city's Office of Labor Relations. The unions representing our EMS members are currently in contract negotiations, and while the outcome is not within the department's control, we hope a contract resolution will be reached soon. EMS members are known as New York City's best. My members deserve the best. New York City runs on the strength of its people, and no one embodies that strength more than the members of EMS. I thank the members of the council for their attention to these issues and for their continued support. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you so much. And again, congratulations on your first day. Trial by fire, literally. I want to say that I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that you all are here and that you're willing and in the disposition of answering this council's questions. And that is important. As we noted the absence of OLR, we do want to uplift your presence here. And we are hoping as we take these issues so seriously, because they're the issues that New Yorkers are talking to us every single day, that we're able to have a productive conversation. And from your testimony, it seems like that is the energy we're going into this hearing with. I have a few questions for the NYPD, and we have a lot of questions overall, so I'm gonna try not to hog up too much time, but I do wanna ask about the NYPD about recruitment for PCTs. What's the average recruitment timeline for new PCTs from exam to full certification?
It varies. So, but if I had to speculate on an average, I would say approximately 6 months from when they actually take the exam to when they're hired.
Great. And I'm sorry, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize we've been joined by Councilmembers Riley and Councilmember Botcher. And so how many new hires are projected for the next fiscal year to reach full staffing capacity?
We're going to try to hire around 400 new,
400.
maybe possibly even more.
Okay, and what's the shortfall right now? What is the gap?
The shortfall, our headcount allotment is actually 1,409, and we're currently at 1,288.
And it seems that for the active headcount for PCTs, 911 operators, there was a budget for 1,298. And so you're going to, that's what you have currently?
We have 1,288 currently. We're budgeted for 1,409.
14, okay.
So we're below the actual allotment.
Okay. Thank you for answering those three questions on
You're welcome.
on PCTs. I want to go into a little bit about working conditions, and I'm sure that my colleagues will ask, and the experience of PCTs. But what are the official maximum shift lengths for 911 operators, and how often are these exceeded in practice?
The maximum is 16 hours, but I'm going to defer to Inspector Martinez to answer the second part of that question.
Okay.
Currently, we have 3 shifts. We have a 12-hour shift, a 10-hour shift, and then we just recently implemented in July an 8-hour shift for our members.
How often are the maximums exceeded? The 16-hour shifts?
We don't exceed the maximum. We just reached 16. For the most part, we try to have them from 2 to 4 hours at the max.
How often are PCTs required to work consecutive double shifts, 16 plus hours, and what safeguards are in place in the new contract to prevent fatigue?
Currently, we don't work past 16 hours. So the max, again, is 16 hours for the people that work 12 hours. Mm-hmm. For the people that work 10 hours, usually it's 14 hours. And for the people that work 8 hours, it would be 12 hours altogether. We never exceed the 16-hour threshold.
Is that a new change or a new shift? Because we've heard testimony and analytical stories from workers who have said that they've been booked to work double shifts.
Would that be 24 hours or 32 hours? I'm trying to understand the question.
My question is, are there instances when the PCTs have been required to work consecutive 16-hour shifts, doubles?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Well, we'll dig in more into that in a bit. How does the department manage and operate sleep deprivation and burnout?
We're doing our best to staff up, and you're going to hear me probably say this numerous times. The 911 center, there's no way to address this issue without hiring more people. Commissioner Tisch understands that. She gets it. She's the strongest supporter of the PCTs. She's reduced overtime her first time she was here from 2014 to 2019. She's doing everything to increase the head count, which would in turn reduce the overtime. We've done it before under her guidance, and I know we're going to do it again.
Okay. And then what if an employee refuses to do the mandatory overtime? What is the policy? And are there any disciplinary actions that are applied?
For the most part, when the PCTs are ordered, they tend to work the mandatory overtime. In some instances, when they say they can't work the overtime, at times I even discuss it with the union and they bring it to my attention. Mm-hmm. And if they can't work the overtime again, we have to provide services to the public in New York. 1 or 2 people that express that there may be fatigue or tired, I'll allow them to go home.
So it's at the discretion of the department?
Discretion and also the needs of the department. If we have a certain volume, we have to maintain the flow. So we'll have to hold them, but again, it's on a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. And on occurrences, people have brought it to my attention, and I allow them to go home without any type of discipline.
Okay, I feel responsibility as the chair of this labor committee to bring up an instance that I heard from a worker. There was a 911 operator that I spoke to who said that she has an open ACS case because she was unable to be there for her child. And the school was calling, and the school was trying to get a hold of her, and she was unable to leave her post because of the mandatory overtime, and no accommodations were made. And so this worker now has an open ACS case. And that is just one of the many stories we've heard. We've heard instances where 911 operators are sleeping in cots in the department. And my question as a follow-up is, in situations where we're seeing that there is an impact on the daily lives of these workers, and they're saying we cannot, perform a double shift or the mandatory overtime at this time. I understand that if everyone does it, then the department cannot function. But if there are accommodations that are requested based on these type of life circumstances, what is the policy of the department to accommodate?
Well, the policy is they bring it to the attention of either administration or the personnel office. Currently, we have 92 either accommodations or hardships, and we work with them on a case-by-case basis. Again, through communication and dialogue with the members, I continuously walk the floor, and they bring issues to my attention. In the particular instance that you mentioned with the ACS worker, I'm not aware with that one. But again, I'm always open to have a discussion with my PCTs. I've been there a little amount of time, but I make myself available. Anytime that anyone want to have a discussion with me, I'm there to listen.
Okay. And I'm happy to chat more offline about that particular case. In terms of salary, how does the NYPD justify starting the maximum salary for PCTs in the range between $42,000 and $58,000 in comparison to Los Angeles, who are closer?
There is, and we would love to see them receive higher pay. However, we're not in control of that. So that is something that the bargaining table between the union and OLR will have to figure that out. Biggest fans of 911 operators because we see what they do.
Mm-hmm. I fully understand the collective bargaining impacts here, and just want to note that this is why it would be important to have OLR at the table to have these conversations. Understood. And to at least listen to our concerns as we navigate the contract negotiations that are upcoming. Going into 911 response, what is the current average wait time for a caller to reach a live 911 operator during peak and off-peak hours?
The average wait time for all 911 calls is 2 seconds. And that's actually for peak and off-peak times, because during off-peak times, the only thing that changes is the volume of calls drops. Mm-hmm. But we staff up to handle that volume of calls, so it's pretty level right across the board.
Mm-hmm. A few months ago, our committee held a hearing where we were shocked to listen to a 911 recording where the call went to voicemail. And DC 37 President, Executive Director Henry Garrido brought up the situation about calls being routed to an automatic message due to the unavailability of operators. How often do callers receive voicemail?
Thank you for that question. And I want to make it clear the 911 system has never had a voicemail. What happened was there was a voice message. When the caller would wait 30 seconds, they would play a voice message to let them know to wait for the next available operator. But there was a tone in that message for the deaf and hard of hearing. If they had a TTY device, to just explain what that is the tone is sent across the landline or the cell phone, and it's transcribed into letters. So they would hear that tone and they would be confused that was a voicemail, and it was understandable. So as soon as that was brought to our attention, as soon as we found out about that, we immediately changed that message, that delay message is what we call it, to the current one, and that happened on April 10th. But just to repeat that, 911 has never had a voicemail.
So there's no voicemail. So if a person is calling, and what will happen if they don't get through to a person? They're just put on hold?
If there's not an answer within, the phone's going to ring. So it's going to say, you could say 5, 6 second rings. You're going to hear that. Then it's going to go to a voice message. It's going to say, please hold for the next available operator. There are none currently available. That's what'll happen. Then once it's ready for a call taker, has basically an open slot to take that call, then it will transfer to the call taker. You're going to hear a very short ring, maybe a half a second, and then the call taker will pick up the phone and say, 911, do you need police, fire, or medical?
Okay.
So
So at the 30-second mark, they get this message.
they do.
Okay.
And that message that was so confusing was changed on April 10th of this year.
So how often, do you have data that shows how often callers are getting the 30-second sort of message?
Yes, I do. There was 111,973 delays for this year, so they would hear that message that many times. They may just hear the first second of that message because then a call taker picks it up. But anytime there's a delay, which is defined as when there's no operator available for 30 seconds after they dialed 911.
And after the 30 seconds, what is the additional delay? What are you finding is the average delay time?
Well, our average answer time is
Seconds. How
yes.
long?
We do. After 30 seconds, we just have the total number of delays. But from being there for many years, I'm very confident it's just right around the 30 seconds. Most calls, even when you hit the delay, they're picked up within a couple of seconds after.
Okay. It would be important for us as we, examine the delay process to have a tracking of how many times it goes past the 30 seconds and have an approximation of how long that time is. Is it at 60 seconds? Is, how long? Because it is important.
I can go back and
Okay.
see if we can take a look at that
Okay.
and figure that out.
Sounds good. I have a ton more questions, but I want to pass it to my co-chairs, and I do have a few questions for fire, but I will come back after Chair Arreola.
Thank you, Chair. So, thank you, EMS. Thank you for doing it, being underpaid, underserved, not having enough equipment, not having enough ambulances, and having innumerable calls that you have to address. And you do all of that, and you save people's lives, and you do it without complaining. But hearings like this is where we have to kind of address why you're not getting the funding that you need. And I, as Chair of Fire and Emergency Management, through our budget hearings, fight constantly to get FDNY and EMS more money. And every year, 4 years, I'm doing this. And 4 years, FDNY stayed flatlined. And this year, I was told they got $180 million more. We asked for $1 billion. But when we looked back, because you see, this is not an uninformed council. We're very informed. And we went to look back, and that money, that was money that was promised to your department in the out years. There wasn't new money. There was never any new money for FDNY. And yet, you go out and do your job. And for that, I am really grateful. I know that OLR is not here today, but I just want to ask a question. If you don't have the answer for it, it's fine. It really is, because it's really not for you to answer, but it's just something I want to clear up. So the FDNY is always telling me that they're advocating for EMS pay parity, and I know that's true. And I want to say both the NYPD and the FDNY, you're very fortunate to have two commissioners that fight for you. It may not have been that way in the past, but it is that way now. So FDNY goes to OLR and they're advocating for pay parity. Does OLR just ignore the recommendation? Are you not hearing back? Is there any type of interaction that you would have in your capacity? I know you're new to this particular position, but is anything that you could tell us that OLR has said in the past with past conversations that have been had?
First and foremost, I want to thank you for your support, as I stated in my testimony, and I just want to say it once again, without your support, the fire department wouldn't have the things that we have without your support, so we appreciate you and council. In regards to the contract negotiations, personally, I was involved in the last one. It was my first one there, and I hate to use that as an excuse, but it was my first one, and I was just becoming acclimated with it. Chief Michael Fields did make recommendations at the end of that meeting, and I guess at the next meeting, I will see where those recommendations went.
Okay, great. And EMS has been working, you've been working, and you haven't had a salary change since 2019. So there was a new contract, there was a minimal amount of pay that was increased in the new contract, despite all the work that the frontline workers and the first responders did during COVID. Did that include back pay? Do you remember if that included back pay?
I believe there was retroactive pay in that.
It was retro. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Great start for your first day. So EMS workforce has reportedly declined from 4,600 pre-pandemic to about 4,100 members in their workforce now. What exit data or surveys has FDNY collected from departing EMTs and paramedics?
So thank you for that question. We did think that may be a question. I do have the information here. So we look at our attrition rate, and currently our attrition rate for 2025 is at 5% of our workforce has separated from the FDNY.
Okay, and how long, on average, does it take to fill an EMT and paramedic position once it becomes vacant?
So that varies because we do not replace an EMT or paramedic on a one-for-one basis. We do a calling off of a civil service list. Just yesterday, we graduated 152 new members of New York City's Best. They are out there right now, maybe in that ambulance that you hear going by. But in regards to our training classes, we have expanded the amount of people we're able to put into a training class up to the number of 200, and we are looking on how to expand that even further. We do between 2 and 3 training classes a year, and each one of those training classes lasts 18 weeks before members are able to come out into the field.
Okay. How does the FDNY ensure adequate coverage during periods of high attrition or sick leave?
So during periods of high attrition or sick leave, the burden becomes on the members. We do offer overtime. The members, there is a overtime program we have called the Known Vacancy Overtime, our KVO program, and that's posted at the beginning of the month, and that lets members at the station know that we do have vacancies on some ambulances on certain days, and that allows the members to kind of look ahead and schedule overtime based on their schedules. Unfortunately, in situations where there are vacancies that arise that are not known, that are like unscheduled vacancies, members are offered overtime to stay and work on the ambulances.
Okay. And what are the maximum shift hours for an EMS worker, and how often are these exceeded in practice?
So we have 2 types of shifts within the FDNY EMS. We have 8-hour shifts and we have 12-hour shifts, but both of those shifts have a cap of 16 hours Now, I can't say that we've never exceeded that, because if in your 15th hour you get called for a job that is maybe a fire or an extended incident, members will stay. They perform their duty and they stay for that incident and continue care. But if we are able to control it, like on a scene of a fire or a major incident, we do a roll call and see who is beyond their 16 hours, and we immediately try and get them on-site relief.
Right, and this is a very important question, because I know that EMS workers are overworked. I know they're overtaxed. I know that the sometimes grueling hours and the hardships that they see when patients die or are critically injured, how it affects them both emotionally and mentally. So are employee assistance programs or trauma counseling mandatory or optional? And how is the utilization tracked?
So employee assistance programs like the counseling service unit, as well as our peer support unit, are in place. They're available 24 hours a day. We do not mandate someone, but we do give referrals, and we do encourage members to go. Like I stated earlier, it may have been a stigma at one point to admit that you were suffering from something, but we are trying to destigmatize that. And just this year alone, our counseling service has seen 9,200 and has had 9,264 visits from members. And as a reminder, all of those visits are confidential.
That's very good to know, and thank you. Recruitment is always a problem, especially when the pay for the beginning of an EMT worker is slightly above minimum wage. So what strategies are being used to recruit and retain EMS personnel, and how effective have they been to date?
So before I answer that question, I just want to go back to the last one. I gave you the wrong number. I gave you the total of the last 5 years. That was the last 5 years, was 9,264. This year, calendar year to date, it's 878. So in regards to recruitment, the FDNY has recruitment drives constantly. We just this weekend had open houses where we invited families and children into the open houses. We also partnered with some canine rescues who were there. So not only did we invite people in to visit our EMS stations, we found some dogs and cats, some homes. So that's always good too. I myself contacted every volunteer ambulance agency within the 5 boroughs last year and asked if I could come to their meetings, their monthly meetings, and speak to them about how to join the FDNY. Because the volunteers play such a vital role in the community, and they're already performing this for nothing. So I wanted to go there and talk to them and encourage them to come, to explore a career in FDNY. I had some communication with some of those volunteer agencies. I plan on trying to get back into those volunteer companies and have them come over. But the FDNY tirelessly tries to recruit for EMS. Unfortunately, throughout the country, this is not just an issue that we're seeing here in New York City. Throughout the country, EMS recruitment is going down. So I'll say it over and over and over again, we are the best EMS service in not just in the New York area, but in the world. And I would love invite anyone who has any interest in coming over to EMS to contact our recruitment department so we can get them the information that they need.
I am so impressed with your answer, all of your answers, but your last answer, because you recognize the value of volunteer fire departments and ambulance corps. I have 5 in my district. And a lot of times, they also go underappreciated. And the fact that you would look to recruit from that particular demographic shows that you really know how to think out of the box, and you shouldn't be interim, you should be actual. Let's talk about operational reforms and response times. In the 2025 Mayor's Management Report shows a drop in daily in-service ambulance hours and a rise in response times. What factors have contributed to the decline in the in-service hours, and how many ambulances are currently out of service each day due to staffing shortages?
So in regards to ambulance outages due to staffing shortages, I receive those numbers daily, and last night we ran down 27 ambulances out of the 646 ambulances that we are normally run in a day. All of those were due to staffing. None of them were due to vehicle issues or vehicles being off service. In regards to response time, there is so many different factors that affect response times, from your recent video about bike lanes, right? All the way up and through emergency room turnaround times, in which the fire department has addressed by starting a hospital liaison unit, where we have EMTs and an officer inside of a hospital. We have 15 of them throughout the city in 3 boroughs, and what they do is when we have a low acuity call that comes into the emergency room, they're able to take over that patient, so that this way the ambulance can return back to service, and those members can make sure that the patient who's brought in by EMS is seen by the emergency room, and they receive the same report as if the ambulance that brought them was going to give it. Staffing is an issue, but we daily, actually moment by moment, we have our central resource coordination center, and they monitor the trends throughout the city and see where we have areas of high call volume and relocate ambulances from areas of low call volume into areas of high call volume. I said in my testimony that recently I rode on an ambulance for a 12-hour shift, and I did go to 3 different boroughs. They didn't spare me because I was on the ambulance. I went with them everywhere, and it was great because I was able to see actually what the members go through every single day, and it's an invaluable experience, and it helps me be able to answer your questions today.
Thank you again. I'm going to now yield to Chair Salam so that he can ask some questions, but I will come back. Thank you so much for your answers.
Thank you. So I want to go into officer headcount, attrition, and recruitment. The NYPD's actual uniformed headcount remains roughly 1,400 below budgeted levels. What are the main barriers preventing the department from reaching full staffing?
I'll do my best to answer that. It's a little bit not quite in my wheelhouse, but I know I can say that Commissioner Tisch is dedicated to staffing up police officers as quickly as possible. There's 1,000 or so in the academy right now, and as soon as that academy graduates, I know it's scheduled for another 1,000 towards the end of the year. So she's doing everything she can to staff up.
How many officers have retired or resigned so far this calendar year, and how does that compare to prior years?
I don't have those figures in front of me. I would have to get back to you with that.
Sure. Has lowering the college credit requirement to 24 credits meaningfully improved recruitment or academy graduate rates?
That would, again, I could speculate, but I do believe that that would be helpful. That's why they reduced it, just to get more candidates.
Reliance on overtime and officer fatigue. How much current overtime spending is tied to filling routine patrol and 911 coverage gaps rather than special events or initiatives?
I came here as a representative. I'm not trying to dodge any questions for the 911 center. I really do not have the patrol figures in front of me, but we can get back to you with that.
Sure. All right. So what I'll do is I'll yield back and come back for a second round. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Salam. So I want to recognize that we've been joined by Councilmember Stevens as well. And we want to recognize Councilmember Feliz on Zoom, who has joined us. And we want to pass it over now to Councilmember Caban, followed by Councilmember Holden, and then Councilmember Stevens for questions.
Thank you very much. I will start, where do I want to start? I'll start with the FDNY. What training is provided to EMTs serving on BHERD teams?
I'm sorry, did you say training for BHERD teams?
Yeah, what training, what training is provided to EMTs that are serving on BHERD teams, and how does it differ from standard EMT training?
So BHERD members, the BHERD program is a collaboration with H&H where EMS members staff it with social workers.
Yep.
These members go to specific classes that they learn how to work alongside of the social workers to be able to de-escalate situations where someone is having a mental issue crisis, and they work to be able to control these situations along with the social workers. And if that situation leads to the patient needing to be transported to a hospital, the members are able to identify that with social workers, and they work together.
But I guess what I'm asking is there like specifically different training protocols or something additional to sort of the standard EMT training for those who are part of BHERD teams? And if you're not sure what that is, I would love if you could get back to us on that.
So all members go through a BHERD style training, but members specifically assigned to BHERD do go to an additional training class. The specifics of that class, I'll be more than happy to get back to you
That would be great. I would love to know the length and sort of what's involved in it. What's the current turnover rate for EMTs on a BHERD team?
Specifically for BHERD, that also, I apologize, I would have to get back to you on.
Sounds good. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions about BHERD. I'm really grateful for the work that BHERD is doing, and I know that there's lots of room to increase the quality of that work. What mental health supports or wellness resources are available to BHERD teams? Are any of the supports like mandatory? Are they optional? Are they embedded into the workplace practices, or are those just the general supports that are available to EMT across the board? And I will just also mention that, I was one of the members who fought really hard for the Crisis to Care package that won the pilot EMS wellness and peer support program to expand mental health services to your workers. So that's like incredibly, incredibly important to myself and obviously a lot of our colleagues.
So, thank you for that. Our peer support and CSU service is available for all of our members 24 hours a day. There isn't one specifically set up for BHERD members. All of our members can seek support.
And how are they embedded into the workplace? Are they at station houses? Are they at a particular location? Are they virtual? Like, what does access to them look like?
So BHERD members and social workers are stationed at stations throughout the city. I mean the wellness supports for the workers. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Wasn't clear.
So the wellness support for workers. So if someone calls and they need support immediately, we have 5 centers throughout the city that a member can go to, but we also have our peers who can go to a station or to a member and speak with them, and if they need it to be escalated, we can do that.
Great. So you guys use peers because peers are important in the work. I guess then that brings me to my question of are you guys open to, willing to pursue having peers on the BHERD teams? In Albuquerque and their responder program, they have peers. In Portland, in their response system, they have peers. There's a lot of really good data around that, but BHERD does not have peers at this point. So what's the department's position on that?
The BHERD program, like I said, is a collaboration with H&H, and the FDNY supports H&H in that program. So I don't currently have a position on what you just raised. This is the first time that I'm hearing of something like that. But I'm sure we can bring it up in ongoing discussions.
Thank you. And I'm just going to rapid fire a few questions because I know I don't have much time left. Might be going back and forth between NYPD and FDNY, so I apologize. But going to dispatch, and I actually had the opportunity to stand in a dispatch room in Portland as they were doing these calls. Is there a mental health professional or clinician in dispatch, helping dispatchers code calls, because again, that is something that actually is being done in some municipalities to help with the coding, because after collecting data, there have been struggles with how calls are getting coded, and more of them could be going to the alternative. So that's one question. The other question I'm going to shift to the support for the dispatchers. When a dispatch member has like a particularly traumatic or triggering call, what's the protocol there? Are they immediately taken off the floor? Where are they taken to? How long are they taken off the floor for? Is it something where they might get sent home for the day if they feel that it's appropriate? Like how are we supporting dispatchers on that front? And then, chairs, can I just add one or two more questions in there? Okay. And let's see. And then, okay, and also to dispatch, I guess it's connected to my question about if there's a mental health professional in dispatch. How does dispatch algorithm determine when to route calls to be heard teams? Like, what's the criteria, decision-making logic, and what circumstances are emergency calls ever diverted to 988 instead of 911 and vice versa? Sorry, that was a lot.
I could answer for the NYPD. There actually is professionals, counselors that we have, because we have an EAU unit staffed of 1 and 5 that cover both centers, and we're actually bolstering that shortly if we haven't already. We might have just started that. So the second part of the question was if there's a very traumatic call, we actually do basically tap the dispatcher, the call taker on the shoulder when there's a minute break, and we mandate it, but just mandate them to go sit down with the counselor that's on service. So we find that they've been very receptive to that. We have over 543 referrals this year for that unit, EAU, where they actually sat down and spoke with the counselors. It's been very productive.
How long are those conversations? Like, how long are they sitting there? Or are they allowed to just like sit in a room after they've spoken to a counselor, decompress? Are there limitations on how long they sit? Just trying to get a sense of what that process looks like for a dispatcher.
Yes, it's really up to the individual. If somebody says to us, I'm fine, I'd like to go back to work, we honor their request. If somebody is visibly shaken or says, I'm going to need a little more time, that was very stressful and I'm a little shaken up, we will give them as much time as they need. And that could go on for a couple of weeks if need be. We would give them a different assignment, something at a less stressful pace. So we're very, understanding when it comes to this. We understand how difficult their job is, and we give them all the time they need.
Thank you.
So for EMS, we do not have someone specifically there, but we do have, like I said, that 24-hour service as well as the peer supports who can come. I will tell you that we recently, I believe it was last year, we wrote a procedure, and that procedure does not allow a member to just shake it off. The last thing I want is somebody who tells us that they're okay, and then they go home and they're not. So in that procedure, while we can't mandate someone to seek help, we in that procedure we have the member speak with someone from our counseling service unit, and to gauge their feeling, and then if we really feel that member needs additional assistance, we will insist that member seeks it.
And just to make sure those last two questions got answered, and these are for NYPD, is there a mental health professional listening to dispatch the 911 calls to help dispatchers when they are coding and deciding who to send, and the information around the dispatch algorithm to determine how they're routing calls to be heard teams, like the criteria, and whether there are circumstances where emergency calls are diverted to 988 instead of 911 or vice versa?
The counselors that work in that EAU unit, they're not listening to calls, but the supervisors on the floor are. And they're notified of any serious call, any person shot, any type of major event. So the supervisor would get involved immediately, and then the supervisor would reach out to EAU, and they would actually go and speak with the person, bring that individual.
No, I mean, is there somebody helping a dispatcher? It's not for the mental health of the dispatcher. I'm talking about when they're trying to figure out how to code a call and who to send, whether it's police first or or EMT first or be heard. Is there a mental health clinician? Because there are some alternative responders in different cities, like Portland, who actually have that person in there to help dispatchers
I
make that
understand the
determination.
question. I got it now.
Yeah,
So
sorry. I know
we
it's- I
do
know it's-
not. We do
I'm going
not
back and forth.
have mental health professionals there. We
Would you consider it?
well, I'll just explain the process, and maybe it'll explain why I don't know if that would work. It's possible, but we refer it to EMS. So the NYPD is the initial point of contact. Once we realize that we have a call that could possibly have response from Be Heard, we transfer that call to EMS. And then EMS is the deciding entity, the deciding agency to see if, it should be going to Be Heard or it needs emergency, NYPD EMS response.
And to best answer that question, I'm going to give the microphone to Chief Denise Werner from EMS Emergency Medical Dispatch.
Right, so once we receive that call from NYPD, we go through an algorithm that's been developed by the Office of Medical Affairs that tells our call takers what questions to ask the caller. And there's a process of elimination on what is an inclusion or exclusion criteria for what we call it's coded as an EDPM, and that's what would go to the mental health unit. So it's all built into an algorithm that is an application that all the call takers use.
Finally, would you be able to provide a copy of what those questions are to the council? And then chairs, you've been very patient with me, so thank you. I'll pass it back to you guys.
I'm sorry, are you asking about what questions are asked?
Yeah, what the protocol is.
Right. I can get the algorithm actually supplied to you.
Yeah, if you could send it also to the committee. Thank you, Councilmember Caban. We've also been joined by Councilmember Menon, and now we have questions from Councilmember Holden.
All right. Thank you, chairs. And thank you, chiefs, for your testimony. It's nice to see you again. Let's say to follow up on some of the questions from my colleague, we have a mental health episode. EMS arrives first. The person is deemed to be dangerous. What's the protocol on that? The police are called, but they're not there because we have a shortage of police and EMS. So first of all, how often does an episode like that or a call like that where the EMS responds first, and what do? Do they disengage with the person? There might be a weapon involved. What's the protocol from EMS?
So in a situation like that, in my previous testimony, I stated EMS enters dangerous situations at all
We know
times.
that, yeah.
Sometimes we don't know what we're walking into until we get there. So if we find ourselves in one of those situations, the EMS members are trained to try and de-escalate that situation. And at the same time, while they're de-escalating that situation, they are relaying that information, that critical information, to our emergency medical dispatch, who is contacting NYPD and additional resources of EMS members in the area to assist. EMS members are also trained to remove themselves as best as possible from those situations and try and I hate to use the word retreat, but retreat to a safe area or an area of refuge where they're not, in immediate harm's way.
So, and this probably happens a lot. So let's say the person has a weapon and they're experiencing an episode, but the police are minutes away or longer. Again, do they just disengage, go into the ambulance, let's say, lock the doors? Do they have anything like a mace to protect themselves? Do they have a taser? Are they trained in mental health? That kind of, how do they de-escalate, first of all? But more importantly, if there's a dangerous situation, what do you tell your EMS workers?
Okay, so we do not carry any type of taser, mace, or anything like that. I'm going to give you a brief personal experience when I was an EMT in Brooklyn, where I myself had a gun pulled on me at the scene of an assignment. Knowing that was happening, my partner relayed to our dispatchers that we were in trouble, and honestly, within moments, my NYPD partners were there. And they were able to take control of that situation. And I'm forever thankful for that. So just thank you, NYPD, for that specific incident and the ones that you come to my members' aids all the time. What I will tell you is that our members are trained in tactical communication and trying to have the ability to de-escalate those types of situations. We do also provide them a self-defense training. That self-defense training is not the initial response from my EMS members. My EMS members are professionals, and they're professionals in what they do every single day, and that self-defense is the absolute last resort of defense against a situation that they might find themselves in, like the one you described.
So again, but if the person has a weapon, whether it's a knife, gun, or anything, or a club, or anything else, that they need to, so that they move the ambulance away, did it go inside, did it get out of the area? I'm not clear on this.
So it's situational dependent, right? If they are inside of a building, then they're going to leave that building. If it's outside in a crowd, they will get inside their ambulance and move the ambulance to a safe location,
Right.
relaying this information through our emergency medical dispatch to our NYPD partners, who we know are just moments away.
And again, this counseling service unit, is that for the workers' counseling? Or do they also go on to the scene of an episode, let's say a mental health episode?
Our counseling services are for our members, our
Only
FDOY
the members, not on the situation?
No.
How many mental health experts are hired by EMS?
So they're not specifically hired by EMS, they're hired by the fire department, and EMS members, being members of the fire department, are utilize those counseling services. I will tell you, though, on staff at CSU, there are several clinicians who are former EMS members who went on to receive training to become mental health clinicians, and that is absolutely key, because when these members speak to my members, they can absolutely put themselves in the situations that my members are coming to them about, and helps them relate and talk more about the situation.
Just one follow-up. How often do your EMS workers obviously have been attacked? You mentioned that, and threatened. Has that gone up in recent years?
We have seen an escalation of that. Last year, we saw 313 documented cases of physical assault on EMS members.
How many were injured?
That's 313.
313 were injured. 313
members documented assault and injury from a patient or bystander.
But I guess there's been certainly situations where they weren't injured, but they were attacked. The person attempted to hit them or attempted violence, right?
Those situations exist, yes.
Okay. And so just one last question. Thank you, Chair. You've arrived at a situation where the person is dangerous, the EMS, and you arrive first, before the police, like I mentioned before. Is that happening more often since we have a shortage of police officers?
That would be anecdotal, and I would not be able to give you an answer.
So there's no when you go to a scene, let's say it's a mental health scene situation, and I see the EMS arrive many more times than before, and even the fire department with their units arrive before the police. Do you keep track of that?
So, there are several situations where that could occur, right? It depends on the call type. If the call type is like Chief Werner described, an EDPM, that does not get an NYPD response. So you would only see EMS at that scene.
No, but where both were called.
Okay. So what I just want to explain about the 911 system is that when a call is made into 911, it looks for the closest unit from NYPD as well as EMS, as well as fire. So it just may be that the ambulance was the closest unit to the call at that time, but that does not diminish the response.
But I just want to gather the information if EMT is arriving more often than before, the NYPD used to have more when we had 38,000 officers. Now we have 32,000. There has to be some kind of ramifications and problems that are putting EMT workers in harm's way more.
So again, I understand and appreciate what you're saying, but I don't have that information to be able to comment
Okay,
on.
all right. Thank you. Thank you, chairs.
Okay, and if there's a way to get that information back, if there is some way to aggregate it and give it back to the committee, we're happy to accept it after. Thank you, Councilmember Stevens.
Hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or both. When I came in, you guys were talking about some of the recruitment that I guess EMS was doing, and also just wanted to just say, we'd love to partner with you guys. I heard you were doing like stuff with volunteer folks, and I would love for us to think about how do we get young people excited about it, especially like EMS workers and 911 dispatchers. Those, I think, are very admirable jobs, because sometimes young people don't see it as an option until they're much older. And so we'd love for us to have a further conversation offline to think about some ways that we can get young people more involved in both of those things, because that's what I do best, right? But just wanted to like offer that up, and in my district as well. So if you do, the next time you have a recruiting session or something like that, we'd love to partner in my district. One of the things that we get a lot of calls about are jobs. People in my district are often looking for jobs, and I say this to all the agencies, sometimes you guys don't use us in the way that you should. So if there are job openings and things like that, I always say please send it out, not just to my offices, but to all the council members, so we can blast it out to our community members, and when folks are coming in, to be able to share that information, because I think both of these units are looking for people and have been doing recruitment, and always just thinking of ways to think outside the box. And one of those ways to me is always to use the council members who are in the community each and every day, and people just come in. I know for me specifically, housing and jobs. So we'll love to make sure that we have all that information to be able to work together. But I just have a question. This is for EMS, and this is a very niche question because this is very specific to my district. As you guys know, I'm not sure if you guys know about the Ogden Avenue EMS station, who we love, but the trucks. They're always double parked, and every time I either call or yell or put it on Twitter, 10 minutes later they're removed. But we have to do something about it because it's dangerous. And the same way you want to be able to get to things, no one can move. So the buses, it's a two-way street. The buses are always stuck on traffic because they're always tripled and double parked on Ogden Avenue. I need help. I need a solution. I can't. I've got stuck there for 45 minutes to go 2 blocks.
So first,
I know y'all moving, and it's still in my district.
Yeah. So I apologize for you getting stuck 45 minutes. For your first question, just give them an hour with me, and I will get somebody very inspired to come on my job. But we would love to collaborate with you, and I'll have recruitment do that when we do recruitment drives. Yes, we are moving at EMS Station 17, but what I will do is I will have that captain and that division commander and the borough commander make contact with your office, and you guys can, I'll encourage them to work together with your office on a solution.
I've spoken to them 100 times. It has to stop, please.
I'll speak to them this
I don't think you guys understand. Like, you know what? Come up there one day with me, just a surprise. I'm telling you, the bus always gets stuck, and once the buses are stuck, no one else can move on Ogden Avenue. Yeah. And we love them, and like, I don't want to be fighting with them, but you know, just we gotta, and also just be mindful that we're still staying in the district, and I've said this before, I don't want them to move, and yes, we know that there's gonna be parking, and I know the details, but I don't want it to be moved, and we move one issue from one part of the district to another part of the district. And so I really, really want us to like resolve this so that I can feel good about them moving to the other side of my district.
Yeah, completely understood, and I will join you in the conversations that we have with them, and I will do my best to get that resolved.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to both of you around recruitment and some ideas I have around like getting some young people excited about this work.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll turn it back to Chair Salam, followed by Councilmember Ressler.
Thank you again for your testimony. I actually have a maybe unorthodox question, but I think it might be worth asking about self-defense. What types of self-defense are being offered for the workers? Because as we know, when you go to like ground zero spaces, it's very, very challenging, very difficult sometimes, and we don't want anybody to get hurt. And I'm just wondering, is there a specific form of self-defense, or is there also additions to that that will provide safety?
If I'll just jump in for a second, our PCTs are all inside of a police building, or I should say a building that's secured by the police. So we really do not go into self-defense techniques for them, but I'll hand it over to EMS.
So that training it's self-defense training, basically with ways to be able to create separation between yourself and the person, and be able to get to an area of safety. It's not training that is meant to completely neutralize that threat. It is training to be able to save yourself from it. If I have a moment and I can comment on a question that was asked me just a few minutes ago about training that involves this, the Be Heard training, the extra training that they get is 4 weeks long, and that does include topics like team building, role playing, assessing children, substance abuse, autism spectrum awareness, de-escalation, self-defense, and intimate partner violence.
So I want to move to detection of inefficiencies. Earlier in your testimony, I believe you testified that there were more than 100,000 calls, reportedly delayed calls, before deployment adjustments were made this past April. What internal monitoring or performance tracking systems does the NYPD have in place to detect such large-scale inefficiencies? And how did those systems fail to flag these issues sooner?
I just want to put it in perspective. That's 111,000 calls out of approximately 6.5 million. So as I said earlier, 92% of all calls are answered within 5 seconds, and over 98% are answered within 30 seconds, which is well above the national standards, well above, significantly above. So we're actually, proud of that figure. Would we want zero? Of course. We would love it if there was zero. And we're doing our best to staff up with, again, I'm repetitive with this, but by staffing up, delays go down because we have more call takers available to handle the emergencies. So we're down 44% compared to last year in delays. So I just want to explain, put it in the big picture. It's the biggest call center in the country, the most 911 calls in the country, and that figure compared to the enormous figure of the number of calls coming in is relatively small.
Got it. So when there are delays and blockages that become apparent, was there any internal review or after-action analysis conducted to understand what went wrong and to hold supervisors or managers accountable? And if so, what were the findings?
Yes, sir. We have a robust, basically, to double check on everything. We have plenty of double checks, and what happens is, as soon as we realize we're taking delays, or if we even forecast we'll be taking delays, we get all the administrative staff out of the office up to the operational floor where they would actually plug in with a headset. We would hold additional people from previous tour if they're going end of tour, and for all large-scale events such as the 4th of July, New Year's, we plan well in advance to have additional call takers to address these things.
Did the PCT's union or call center supervisors raise concerns about prolonged hold times or excessive workloads prior to April 2024? And if they did, how did the NYPD management respond? And were any corrective measures taken at that time?
Yes, we received those complaints, and I could just say that from my time being there, that it happens, and we want to do the best for everyone. But of course, you inevitably receive some complaints like that. So in April, that's when we started, again, that's when we started this big hiring push to address this. So they did voice their concerns. In April, I actually got involved with the 911 system again. I used to work there in the past, now I'm involved. We have regular meetings with the union. I actually, myself and Commissioner Hart, we have them with the overhead union, and Inspector Martinez, sitting next to me, has them with the local union. So we're in constant communication with them to address any of their issues.
Does the department, does the department conduct regular audits or automated reporting to compare live call volumes against staffing capacity?
Absolutely, constantly. We have systems in the office where we can actually see the number of calls that are coming in, how many operators are on calls, how many are available. We send out basically the call volume every hour, showing where the call volume was, so we can prepare for the next hour. So it's like a constant job. You basically have to keep your eye on this at all times, and that's exactly what they do.
And what procedures, accountability mechanisms, or staffing review processes have been implemented since April 2024, since April, to prevent this kind of systemic breakdown from reoccurring in the 911 system?
We've put several things. I don't know if I would actually say systemic breakdown, but we keep improving it. And one of the major things that has been done under Inspector Martinez is the response times. We're laser focused on that. We created a response time supervisor that's actually on the dispatch floor looking at all of the crimes in progress to make sure that response is sent immediately. Then we have the second layer where a uniform supervisor that I alluded to in my opening testimony, every 2 hours they review it as well. So you have the first layer of the supervisor right on the floor, and then we have a second uniform supervisor also reviewing this to make sure. And our response times are down 6.6% for the year.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. Councilmember Ressler.
Thanks so much, Chair Ariola and Chair Salam, and especially to Chair De La Rosa for their leadership. It was some months ago, I don't know when, but earlier, late last year, early this year, that Chair De La Rosa and I co-chaired a hearing where Executive Director Garrido came to testify about extensive unanswered calls in 911, people working 12-hour shifts en masse, tremendous understaffing. My office and Councilmember De La Rosa's office have been in touch with the union, and we've been really concerned about the lack of responsiveness for people calling 911. It sounds to me from reviewing the testimony, and I'm sorry for being a little late this morning, that Chief Napolitano was brought in April back to an area where you've worked previously to help address the situation. And it sounds like, Chief Miano, this is your first day on the job. I hope it's not your last. I hope my colleagues haven't been too tough on you, but that we didn't scare you away. But it sounds like from the testimony there is some improvement. I just would like to drill down a little bit on that improvement and understand things. Chief Napolitano, in your testimony you mentioned that 200 PCTs have been hired since April. My staff and I did a review of the city record, and we only found 93 operators have been hired. Could you just clarify those 200 individuals who've been hired? Are they all in place at this time? What's the status of those additional 200 people? Sure. And just to be clear, my staff did a review of the city record from January 1st to the present of this current calendar year, and at least what was reported publicly through that mechanism, as all hires are supposed to be reported, we found only 93 operators had been added.
Okay, I'll do my best to explain that. 93 were hired in April?
No, since January 1 of this year.
Okay, I'm just breaking it down. That's when they were hired.
Oh, got it,
The first
sorry.
group was hired in April, and we had a second group hired in August.
Okay.
And I guess that wasn't in the public record at the time.
Or we may have
That's
missed it.
of 120. So they're still in class right now.
Got it.
They graduate on November 7th and November 13th, I believe. And I'm certain that that's going to help the overtime issue
Yeah.
and just the overload issue.
Got it.
It's a
So
very big class.
we're 2 weeks away from 120 additional folks helping out in a meaningful way and providing some significant relief.
Almost 120, because some drop out. And
Close.
Close.
I'm also concerned about attrition. Based on our review of the city record since the beginning of this year, we found 119 PCTs have left their jobs. Is that consistent with your data? I didn't see that in your testimony. I was wondering if you could speak to it.
Yes, I can. I have 170 up to date. Again, maybe our figures.
Those are more
they're
accurate
the
than
most
mine.
recent. So we have 170 currently, but looking back at previous years, just to give it some perspective.
170 people have attrited, have quit over the course of this year.
Have quit for various reasons.
It happens.
Some, jobs, moving, so there's many reasons. Looking at that compared to previous years, though, since it's almost the end of the year, we had 335 leave the job in 2022. We had 256 leave the job in 2023. And even, we believe, we had 189 in 2024. So the attrition is going in the right direction. And I credit Inspector Martinez and his whole team with many of the things they are doing to improve morale.
So I appreciate that, and that data is helpful, but I think it's just important to add and subtract the new hires versus the folks that have attrited. It sounds like in a best case scenario, if close to 120 make it over the finish line, plus the 93 that you've already brought on board, we're looking at about 210, 213 additional hires this year. And so far this year, the number of people who've left the agency again is 170? So we've added about between 30 and 40 additional PCTs over the course of the year. That will be the net number at this time. I mean, if we'll see, but we're looking at approximately a net of 30 additional PCTs.
We're also planning on hiring, and I completely believe it's going to happen, this police commission, I've said it multiple times, dedicated to the 911 center.
She certainly is.
And we're looking to hire approximately 130 in November. So as soon as this class graduates, we put another class right in. They're all going to be back to back. And
I'm happy to hear
all the
that.
resources.
I raised these issues with Commissioner Tisch when she appeared before us at Finance Committee hearings in the spring. She committed that she was invested in helping to improve the system and address some of the issues. It sounds like that's why you've been brought in, and that there's some progress. Could I have an additional minute or two to keep going?
If I can just say, she did it last time. She's going to do it again. I have 100% confidence in that.
I do too. It's worth noting that there's about 70 days left in this administration. Staffing. So of the 1,200 employees who have actively worked, of the 1,200 employees, if I have that number right, are you able to give a data point on the number who actively work shifts in the past week?
I don't have that right in front of me.
Okay. No. Okay. Do you have okay. I'll keep it moving. Non-answered calls, and I'm sure this has been discussed, and I apologize again that if I'm bringing things up that have already been answered, but I know you've gone through the average call times, but we've been very concerned about reports from the union and from constituents about non-answered calls. When we asked Commissioner Tisch about this in the spring, she said, that doesn't happen, essentially, but I think that that's not exactly right. Could you give us some clarity on non-answered calls?
Sure, I'll do my best. And I actually do remember that exchange. I believe she was referring to it doesn't go to voicemail. It
doesn't go to voicemail. I think I answered I think I asked the question poorly, so it's probably my fault in the way that I phrased it, but I think that we didn't get clarity on the record and for New Yorkers to understand the gravity of this issue, so maybe we can clear it up today.
Sure. So 911 has never had a voicemail.
Right.
That was confusion with the current delay message that would actually tell the caller that please hold for the next available operator.
Right.
But then it would play a TTY, it's called a Baudot tone, where sounds are changed into letters across the machine so somebody that's deaf or hard of hearing can type. So they would hear that tone and they actually thought it was going to voicemail. Due to text to 911, TTY is virtually obsolete. We did away with that message. On April 10th, we put a message that would no longer confuse the callers. But again, just to make it clear,
That's helpful.
911 has never had a voicemail.
So how many times in the past year have callers had to wait over 30 seconds?
I have 111,973. But that's compared to 202,000 from last year.
So that's down by almost 50%. That's great. That's progress. And I recognize you guys get something like 7.5 million calls a year. So when we're talking about 100,000 calls waiting over 30 seconds, it's, you know, it's not, I don't want to overstate it. I also think it's concerning. So progress, but still a concern. Do you track how many have to wait over a minute?
I don't have those figures in front of me.
Do you have data on specifically for those 100+ thousand who had to wait over 30 seconds? Do we know if they just hung up, or what percentage of those calls just give up?
We don't have that figure.
We don't track that.
We do not track that. At least I'm not aware of that.
So, look, I think that, and it sounds like as a result of some improved management and emphasis on hiring, we've been able to drive down the number of calls that are over 30 seconds. What needs to happen for us to drive that number down further?
Increase the hiring. There's some problems, some issues that cannot be resolved without just increasing the head count. This is absolutely one of them. And we're doing everything we can with every single bureau in the police department to increase this.
Well, no argument here. We need more 911 call operators, and appreciate that, you know, this is an issue that especially Chair De La Rosa and I and others have been very concerned about. It sounds like there's been some meaningful progress. We still have a ways to go to get to where we should be, but happy to hear that things are moving in the right direction.
There's been a huge amount of progress. In April, we were up over.
I acknowledged it. I mean, I wasn't, you know,
So
I'm not. I did not acknowledge it. You should hear me on a regular day with the Adams administration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to just go back to the hospital liaison program because I think it's great. And I want to thank Commissioner Tucker for enhancing that program because it'll make a difference. But back in November of 2024, FDNY testified that there was a vacancy of 90 lieutenants, and that was being remedied. And then in turn, that would cause a reduction in hospital turnover times. Were those 90 lieutenants hired, and did it have an impact?
So we did do a hiring of lieutenants, and we are currently down 12 lieutenants, and I'm looking at everything now, and I'll see if we are able to get that number resolved in the near future.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That is progress. And the FDNY is coordinating with H&H and private hospitals to address persistent bottlenecks in patient transfer and ambulance availability, and they're doing it in these ways, and I think that's great. But do you have any numbers that could tell us how the measuring of the impact and efficacy of the hospital liaison program since it was started up again?
So I can make a broad statement and say that we have seen progress and that in-hospital times are down during the period of times that our HLU members are in the hospitals. I would have to, because they're so widespread, to give an exact number would be hard. But at the moment, but I would be able to break that down and get that to your office.
Okay, great. And is there criteria or the thought of expanding the hospital liaison pilot beyond the 10 current H&H sites? And if so, how will FDNY ensure consistency across all hospitals?
So we are always looking at expansion of ways that are helping us trend in a positive direction. I have a chief assigned to the HLU unit, and he has gone out to hospitals and has regular meetings with them about the program to see hospitals' interest in the program.
Mm-hmm. And that's both H&H and not-for-profit or private hospitals?
We are in
Just
both,
within
yes.
H&H. Good,
yes.
Wonderful. Let's talk about paramedics. What role do paramedic response units play in reducing response times citywide? And are there plans to expand or modify the model based on the results so far?
So the paramedic response unit, just to give a little bit of context, an ALS or paramedic unit has 2 paramedics that ride in an ambulance, and when they come upon a patient, they are responsible for that patient for the totality of the call. What a paramedic response unit is it's 2 paramedics in a non-transport vehicle. That vehicle is simultaneously dispatched with a transport vehicle, and when they get on the scene of that assignment, they assess the situation. And if it's deemed that this patient does not need advanced life support, then that patient is then taken over by the basic life support unit and transported to the hospital, allowing the paramedics to become available again for another high priority assignment.
Excellent. In 2024, how many patients were diverted from hospital transport through the 911 to telemedicine programs? And do you have any metrics that are used to assess patient safety and outcomes?
I'm very sorry. You asked if we have any metrics.
I know, I saw Jason whispering in your ear at the same time.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jason. It's all right, he's a good guy. Do you have any metrics that'll show how many patients were diverted from hospital transport through the 911 system to telemedicine programs? And can you assess, and how do you assess the safety of the patient and their outcomes?
So in regards to the telemedicine, we do have a process in place that sends patients through dispatch when the dispatcher is speaking to the alarm receiving dispatcher is speaking to the patient. There are different situations where they could be sent to telemedicine, and I'm going to allow Chief Werner to speak on that.
Thank you.
It's pretty similar to the mental health calls. It goes through an algorithm, and they reach an inclusion or exclusion criteria, and if they're eligible for telemedicine, they transfer it. If the call is required to come back into the system, we do keep that call in a not sent state so that we can reopen it.
Thank you.
And that's for low acuity calls.
Okay, and I just have one last question. It really isn't, it's a statement. In addition to the members that you mentioned that you lost in 2020, 14 EMS workers died by suicide, and reports of assaults have increased from 15 in 2011 to 386 in 2022. I know that this council has voted to provide bulletproof vests for your members, and I'm glad to hear the numbers of people that are seeking counseling through your peer support systems, and that you yourself, Chief, are going out and making sure that on the ambulances, because to make sure that everything is going well. I think that you're doing a wonderful job with the tools that you have. FDNY, it's no secret that I am a fan, and I'm only a fan because you get the job done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I do want to ask the question about the contract, and I understand that it's not maybe for you to answer, but I do want to ask the question on the record. EMS workers have been on an expired contract for 3 years. What progress has been made in negotiations with the EMS Local 2507 and 3621? What specific terms remain point of contention between the city and unions? And has the city examined the long-term costs of turnover, including recruitment and training, compared to the cost of a fair contract?
So I don't have the exact answers to those questions, but I do want to state again that the work that my members do is absolutely invaluable. They give the one thing that we hold most valuable back to people, and that's time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you could put a number on time, except to say that the members, the work that they do is invaluable, and we're hoping that there is a positive resolution with OLR.
Thank you so much for those comments, and we're hoping the same. Any other questions from members? No? All right, I want to thank you all again for the productive conversation, for being here, for being present, and for being collaborators in our, I think, aligned goal of making the workforce more empowered and making sure that we're here to respond to New Yorkers in need. So thank you for your service to the city as well. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your support.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with you. All right. While the dais clears, I want to now open the floor to public testimony. But before we begin, I want to remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait for your name to be called. Once you have been recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic on the working condition of New York City's 911 emergency response workers. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also write email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. When you hear your name, please come up to the witness table. For the first panel, we invite Oren Barsley, FDNY EMS Local 2507, sorry about your last name. Tabitha Shepard, PCT Local 5911, DC 37. Kadeem Denon, PCT Local 5911, DC 37. And when you begin your testimony, just identify yourself for the record so that we can, adequately know who's speaking. It's good to see you all. Thank you. All right, you may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, council members.
Morning.
Thank you for having us today. I don't have a written testimony as I've submitted the same complaints over and over. I've listened to the questions that were presented today, and I don't blame our chiefs for any of the mishappening that is currently going on in the FDNY. They work very hard to provide service to the city, and that our men and women are kept protected. However, by the sign that OLR is not here reflects the exact way that we are being dealt with when we sit down with them to negotiate. There is a total disrespect when we sit down for over a year and haven't moved 1 inch from what we have asked for. There are many problems that this city faces when it comes to my members, their members. It's poverty wages. That's why there is such a high rollover. How can you afford to live in a city with a starting salary of $39,000 and somebody like me, 30 years, $59,000? If you don't do any overtime, it's impossible to survive. If you don't get a second or third job. I have men and women that are living in shelters, sleeping in their cars, sleeping at bus depots to avoid paying the toll or the train to go home, or to avoid that expense. There is no fair contract. They're giving us the same bargaining offer that they give people who are making 6 figures to those that are making $39,000. There's no negotiations whatsoever. We are stuck. They're refusing to budge. They want to oppress us, and they are keeping us oppressed. Majority of my men and women are people of color. 30% are women. They're struggling. The FDNY testified today about a 5% turnover rate. Those numbers don't add up. If they put 3 classes a year of 200 people a class, that's 600 people. That's over 20% of my membership. They play funny numbers. When my men and women leave to other city agency jobs that pay far better, they don't consider that as leaving the agency. As long as they remain employed by the city, that's not reflected in their resignation numbers that they gave of 5%. I have 4,000 members. In 10 years, we hired 5,000. Nobody stays. We're spending millions of dollars on retraining and training new recruits every year. Just last week, 175 people left on a Friday in one day to become firefighters. You can't hold these people, you can't blame them for leaving. Their starting salary is what the top salary is. They don't include people who are leaving for sanitation, to become police officers, or even Uber drivers make more than us. $18 an hour, and then you take off the taxes, you're left with 12. A dog walker makes $25 an hour on the average. A cashier at Target, Walmart, Costco is making $21, $22 an hour. And that's the reason why our response times are through the roof, and it's going to continue in that trend until the city acknowledges that there is an issue here. Last week, we had people waiting for an ambulance for 7 hours in the Bronx. It's a common occurrence. It's the busiest borough. People are dying. This past November, we were here. We heard from 2 family members. One, a father who did CPR on his son for over 20 minutes before an ambulance arrived. That's the highest priority call that we have in our system. His son succumbed, unfortunately. We had a daughter here who her father fell in the bathroom. Waited over 30 minutes, her father was bled to death. He also succumbed to his injuries. These are daily occurrences that the fire department is trying to resolve. However, OMB is refusing to give them the resources and the budget that we need. I know that they're asking for more funding to get more ambulances, more people. However, we get turned down every time we ask for more help. And we're paying with people's lives. In the coming weeks, even the private sector is pulling out of our system. Northwell has informed the department 2 weeks ago that they will be removing 6 ambulances out of their system, out of our 911 system. That will also impact response times, both in Manhattan and Queens. Our members are faced with dangers all the time. This Monday, the FDNY released a data report that shows a 20% increase on assaults on EMTs and paramedics, 470 versus the last year, which was 330 that they mentioned earlier. The governor, over the weekend, vetoed a bill to protect EMS personnel. We have supervisors who ride along all the time. The fire department thought it would be too costly. They wouldn't be able to hire an additional 290 members. Yet we had Lieutenant Allison Russo stabbed to death because she was by herself. She had no partner, nobody to call for help other than the public who watched what was happening. She would have been here today. But we're refusing to invest in EMS. Although I don't have a testimony, I wanted just to rebuttal some of the issues that were discussed today, and I'm welcoming your question.
We're gonna listen to the full panel, and then we do have questions, so please stay. And thank you for your testimony. It's impactful, and it's what we've been hearing for years. And we share the frustration that the needle hasn't moved. But we want to listen to the rest of the panel. Please. Just make sure your mic is on. There you go.
Good afternoon, Chair Della Rosa, Chair Ariola, and Chair Salam, but he's not here, and other members of the council. My name is Tabitha Shepard. I am the new elected Local 5911 President and Supervisor for 911. Thank you. I am here to speak about about the critical issues that affect our ability to perform at our highest level, and chronic understaffing across the department. The number one issue that we face is that we are severely understaffed. The shortage directly impacts response time, accuracy, and safety on both the public and our operators. During my research and conversation with colleagues, I proposed 2 concrete compressed schedules aimed to alleviate the excessive overtime and reducing the burden on our operators. Regrettably, these proposals were denied by Labor Relations. Instead, Labor Relations has a history of proposing schedules that require mandatory overtime for our operators. This approach places unsustainable strain on our workforce and does not address the root cause of the understaffing. To illustrate the human impact, I must share a truth that weighs heavily on our operators. Many of our operators are working extended hours, including 2 and 3 tours with limited holidays or no holidays at all. They're working 3 to 4 days a week, 16 hours a week, all tours. And this is time away from their loved ones. They also have children they have to take care of. They have elderly parents that they assist, and people have underlying illnesses that they can't be at work 16 hours every day. They're exhausted, they're tired. This has been going on for at least 3 years straight. This has led fatigue, decrease in morale, and concerns of long-term health and job performance. Our personnel are current circumstances threatening both well-being and quality of service we provide to the community. I respectfully request attention to the following points: 24-hour coverage without reliance on overtime, a realignment to the schedule. Like, our schedules are not aligned properly. They need to be aligned properly. It's like it's done purposely to order them every day for overtime. I want us to revisit and collaborate on practical proposals that balance the operational needs with well-being of the workforce, and prioritize scheduled practices and allow adequate rest. Our goal is to deliver the fastest, most accurate compassion response for every call. Achieving that requires a sustainable, well-staffed team that can safely handle the call volume without excessive overtime. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on becoming president.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Good day, Council De La Rosa. My name is Kadeem Danoon. I'm the vice president, actually, of the local 5911. I do not have a testimony, but I'm in here of support of my president in regards to the issues that are going on at 911, which is clear issues. I welcome any questions that you guys have. I have been on the job for 8 years. I am active still at the job, so I know about the overtime. I know about what is being done at the job. I know every question that you could possibly have an answer for you. So I welcome every question that you guys have, and once again, I'm here to support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we do have some questions. The first question that I have is, you heard me question the admin about the mandatory overtime and the double shifts. And the response that we got here was that the double shifts are not occurring. Can you speak to that? Because I've heard from workers who have said that the double shifts are occurring. Can you speak to the situation with the double shifts?
Go ahead.
Okay, so in layman's terms, when you're saying a double shift, right? If you're working a regular 5 hour, if you're working a regular 5 day, you work 8 hours a day, right? So a double shift will be you do another 8 hours, which is 16.
The 16 hour.
Right, so we do have a 5 day, we have a 4 day, and we have a 3 day. So the 3 day you'll work 12 hours, right? The other 4 days you'll work 10, which is 9:45, 8:45, because we don't get paid for our meals, so it'll take out the hour, right? And then the 5 days is the 8. So if I'm working, let's just say a 5 day, I will do 16 hours every day that I'm scheduled to work, right? They do have members that work 16 hours. I'll say this, the inspector who you just spoke to, he's very hands-on, so he will let people go, right? But once again, it's the needs of the command. So if I need you to work 16 hours, you're going to work 16 hours. So we have PCTs, which is our members, working 16 hours straight, a whole midnight.
For how many days?
For 4 days, 3 days.
Straight.
Yes.
So the double refers to the 2 8-hour shifts.
Or it could be, if I'm working 12, whatever amount of hours will make my 16. So we don't get held past 16, right? So if I'm working a 12-hour shift, the 4 hours added on will make my 16, so that will be my 16 hours. So I will be working, if I'm working 4 days, I'll work 16 hours every day. Our midnight is from midnight to 9:45, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll order them till 1500, till 1600, which is 4 o'clock, which is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or it will be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But we're getting ordered every day. I just came from work about 2 days ago. I got ordered. We're getting ordered every day.
And once you do the 16-hour shift, you get a rest day, or then you have 8 hours to go home, go to sleep, and come back for another 16 hours.
So it's not directly 8 hours, because some of our members work in the Bronx and then commute and stuff like that. But no, we don't get a rest day. You come back to work, you get ordered again. You come back to work the next day, you get ordered again. So it don't matter when you're scheduled to work, you're gonna get ordered. Pretty much. Once again, the inspector is very hands-on. He will let people go if you ask or if you talk to them. But for the most part, our command is getting ordered every day. The overtime is ridiculous.
Okay. I think we're gonna dig more into that, but I did wanna pose the same questions that we posed to the administration earlier about the contract. What progress has been made in negotiation? We heard Order and you say nothing, right? No progress yet, but we wanna hear from you. What progress has been made? What are the specific points of contention? We heard some of them here. And then has the city, well, I guess that was for the city about the long-term impacts. But can you tell us anecdotally for your colleagues, what are the long-term impacts of not having this contract negotiated for the last 3 years? And you can take that question in whatever order you feel comfortable, those questions.
Look, every day we have, on average, 2 people resign every day, 1 to 2 person leave. In February of next year, 350 are gonna leave on the same day to become firefighters. That's a normal occurrence in FDNY EMS. Anytime a police academy starts, sanitation class starts, they leave. So it's like a revolving door here. They don't want to give people the option to make this a career that they love. We save lives. We bring people back from the dead. And when they see that there is no reward for it, and when I say reward is livable wages, we're not asking to be rich. We know we're not going to be rich working for the city. But commensurate us to the other agencies. They are earning twice as much as us, doing the same 911 calls. We are faced with the same dangers, the same risks. We asked for pay parity. They adamantly said, there's no way we're gonna give you guys pay parity. I don't wanna mention that it's humiliating what's happening to us.
Can you describe what pay parity looks like for you all, just so that folks who are listening in understand what it means?
So a firefighter will make $109,000 after 5 years. An EMT makes currently $59,000. That's a $50,000 pay difference. That's a difference of paying your rent, food. I mean, there are studies out there that shows how much a single person needs to make to live in New York City. It's in the six figures for a single person. Yet we are here over and over again. The council, and I thank you all for appropriating the $50 million to give us that pay parity. However, the mayor vetoed it. It won't cost us $50 million. They actually had told us at the table it's about $20 to $30 million to fix this pay parity issue, but yet they are refusing. My members are suffering. The overtime is through the roof. There's no issue with finding work because we run down 40 to 50 ambulances every day because we don't have the staffing. And that's just for the minimum. That's not even for the extra units that we need. We are running below minimum every day. And it's a reflection on our response times. As the mayor's budget report shows all the time, it keeps going up every year. And we are at a level where more people will die.
I appreciate that, Chair Ariola.
Orrin, I know that you had dealt quite a blow when the governor vetoed the pay parity bill just recently. And part of, from what I read, it was because the mayor, she vetoed it, which honestly, during election years, everything is yes. As soon as election is over, things are vetoed.
Yes.
And you're right. 25 million would bring you to pay parity. The 50 million we asked for is a drop in the bucket when you speak to other first responders who are settling contracts in the multi-billions. Multi-billions.
Yes.
But you were also promised through this administration that the 50 million would be appropriated after we asked. But I imagine that failed along with his failed attempt to become the mayor for a second term. And I'm sorry about that. But guess what, Orrin? We're still going to be here. And we're still going to be advocating for you guys. We're still going to make sure that you get what you need. And I know that you have been so patient, but we're not giving up, and we don't want you to give up either. Because what's been happening to EMS is a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. You're being used for political purposes and political pawns. And in the meantime, your members are either leaving, as you said, for other agencies, living in homeless shelters, or unable to provide for a family, so they're living at home. So we're going to work this year coming to make sure that that ends. Thank you for all that each and every one of you do.
I appreciate all the help and support.
Orrin, your partnership has been invaluable.
Yeah, you know.
Thank you.
You go 10 miles to Elizabeth, New Jersey, the EMTs make over $80,000. You go 10 miles to Nassau County, $140,000 they pay for their paramedics. We're nowhere near that. We're not even asking for that. We're asking to bring us up a little more than what you're offering us. If the inflation rate was a little over 20% last year, offer us that at least. They're not even offering us what the inflation rates are. I don't want to continue rambling the same issue, but that's the reality, and hopefully somebody will wake up one day and realize that New York City is paying poverty wages, not just to us, to my colleagues on the right. When I heard they're making only 58, I mean, it's terrible. That's why there's a vicious cycle of rehiring, because people don't know what they're getting into until they realize wait a second, I gotta be here and get beat up for this money? This is what's happening to us. We're getting beat up for $58,000 a year.
And a highly trained workforce at that, right? And so I want to echo Chair Ariola's sentiments. She said it so eloquently. You have our commitment. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be here and we're going to continue to fight for both of these sectors because they're equally important, right? Like I see you all sitting at the table and I'm like, this is one side of the system and this is the other side of the system, and both sides of the system are being failed. And when that happens, New Yorkers don't trust us. And so we're gonna stay committed to that. I know that Councilmember Holden also has a question.
I just want to add one thing.
Sure.
To that bill that was vetoed. The FDNY does a safety report when there's a major incident, especially when it comes to somebody dying. And in their own recommendation, they requested that a supervisor never go out on his own again. And they once again failed to follow their own direction, that we should never be out there alone. I'm sorry.
No, but thank you all for your testimony and fighting for your membership. And Oren, this is my 8th year, and you could have given that testimony 8 years ago, and you probably did, and we're still in the same spot. I just can't believe that the administration has turned a blind eye to this. Let me just go, not to mention, and you didn't bring this up, but during the pandemic, all your staff, your members were out there. You didn't work remotely. You were there. First responders put themselves in harm's way. You would think any administration would reward that they were out there. But the $39,000 starting salary is an insult. You can't even make ends meet. Even with 2 salaries, if both EMS workers were in the same family, they still couldn't make it in New York City. That's how we're in such dire straits. But given the pandemic, and then what your testimony is, 350 are leaving, of your members are leaving to be firefighters. You would think that would be an incentive for more pay parity. So this is a disgrace and a failure of this administration, which they should be ashamed of themselves for not fixing this. But I just want to bring up the pay parity, Oren, again. The administration flat out says no, and that's it. There's no room for negotiation. I mean, are you also bringing up retro pay and so forth for 3 years without a contract?
So they flat out said no, and we tried to compromise, maybe meet in the middle somewhere. No.
And when you say, well, our members are out there and we save lives, it's not like and they're overworked, obviously, but they go into very stressful situations every single call, almost, that somebody's on the phone and they're frantic because somebody's not responding, one of their loved ones, and so forth and so on, they're down. And your staff has to actually bring them back to life or save their lives. And that's not important for pay parity, that alone. I just, again, I could feel your anger. I felt it for 8 years, and I commend you. But we have to really get to a point. And the governor's, by the way, the veto is another insult. And I think your membership should remember that. Even if the contract is signed, doing that is a disgrace, what the governor just did. Not getting to pay parity, but not rewarding past work that you've done during the pandemic, which you were asked to do much, much more. Thank you all for your testimony.
I appreciate the kind words of support. And I just want to go back to your question that you had to the department about the EDP calls, the mental health. Our members don't go in unless the police is there. Sometimes we wait an hour or 2 until the police get there. No fault on the police colleagues, they're busy, but we don't go in. We wait for the police, whether it's down the block.
But they didn't say that.
They won't tell you that. We wait sometimes 2 hours for the police to arrive because the police is busy dealing with other crises.
No, I've heard that over and over again from first responders, that the police are, because of the shortage, and each unit is holding multiple jobs.
Yeah.
And they're sometimes the last at the scene. Sometimes they don't even make the scene. The firefighters are telling me that the police rarely show up to these situations.
We don't go in unless the crew decides on their own to take that chance. But our protocol is you do not go in unless the police is there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, chairs.
I want to thank this panel. I'm sorry. Too much going on. Councilmember Felder has a question.
Thank you. I don't know if this is something that, really should have been posed for the previous panel, but I'm just curious. I don't understand, and perhaps one of you can explain. When 911 gets a call that someone is having, I'll just say, a meltdown, right? You and the police, they send out your people and police to the scene. Is that accurate?
On certain calls, we both go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not on all calls. Not on all medical calls, but on on EDP calls, except for the Be Heard EDP calls, the police don't go. But
Right.
for the regular psych patients that have violence tendency, the police get dispatched with us.
Right. Are any of you aware, I haven't read up on it, but are any of you aware on, again, like when they do show up, somebody mentioned something about mace or other things. How are they trained to respond to someone who's having a meltdown?
So we have de-escalation training that we get. Basically, it's a little self-defense.
It's what?
It's self-defense 101, like to block an arm. It's simple tactics that they teach us, but those things happen unexpectedly. You're treating your patient on the stretcher.
Right.
You don't anticipate him to punch you in the face or bite you in the face.
But before the stretcher, in other words, there's a young man who's not well, who's holding a knife, waving a knife, somewhere, down the alley or something. There's some neighbor calls, says he's
just
not,
retreat. That's the only. We have to retreat. That's the only
so
thing.
you retreat, and then the police show up at some point. And how are you aware on how they respond to that?
I am not familiar with that.
Okay.
On our side, no, we're not aware of how they respond. So we just cover when the call come in and stuff like that. In regards to that, also to his point, if MHR, which is the Be Heard, is responding, then we will see the message on the dispatcher side, and we won't send the police. But if it is a threat or it is someone that's violent and is going through a crisis, yes, we do send the police. Stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just say, I want to thank everyone here that asked the hard questions, right, and are standing up for us, because we do need that, because like he said, a lot of things are not going to be said when our chiefs and our inspectors and they sit here, but we, the local, and we, the members, we are going through this every day, right? We spoke about pay. The pay it's ridiculous. It's laughable, to be honest with you. Our members also are in shelters. Our members are also going through a lot. We have people who are sleeping in the command. We voice these complaints over and over and over again. Sometimes it feels like it's falling on deaf ears, and I'm thanking you for your reassurance that you're going to fight for us. I heard every question you asked, which shows me that you guys are doing the research. You're asking the hard questions. I do wish that we still had a couple more people that was here who asked questions that I had an answer for. But the overtime is ridiculous. Sometimes we have to do the overtime to survive in New York, right? That's clear. When we go in, a member going in to 911 is using 911 as a stepping stool, right? So I think they said 6 months is the training. So that's 6 months. You're spending all these money on these new recruits for the 6 months. Some of them are already on lists to be called for PD. So every class, every city class that gets paid more, they're gonna go. So that's why we don't retain. So staffing is a problem, it is, but we could get the bodies in, we cannot keep them because they're not getting paid to stay there, right? And then you kick in the overtime and the short staff, it's a slew of stuff that you're gonna be going through as a 911 operator, and you're not gonna stay. So we talked about call volume, talk about call waiting, and all these things. So we think about it like this. If, let's just say, for example, a call volume is 1,000. I'm just giving an example, 1,000, and we have 200 PCTs, which is members, to answer those calls, right? We don't have that. So it will be like 1,000 to 20. So a PCT is doing more of the work. Though it's calls back to back to back to back. Yes, we have members sleeping on call. Unfortunately, we have members sleeping on calls. We have members there. We cannot stay awake. Then for you to leave there and to go home, some members live in Brooklyn. Once again, the inspector is very hands-on. I have to say this, he's very hands-on. We go to him with a problem. If he can fix it, he will. But some members live in Brooklyn. Let's just say I live in Coney Island. I have to go to the Bronx to work, right? I do a 16-hour shift. My commute from the Bronx to Coney Island is probably like an hour, 2 hours. Now, let's just say I get off on a midnight where the trains are not running express. They're running local. So my commute is down longer. Now I get home. By the time I get home, fall asleep for an hour. I have to go back to work. Now I go back to work and have to do those 16 hours again. So we understand that is a problem. Everyone as a collective. I don't understand why the city or NYPD, why they don't see it as a problem. The pay, I can't stress enough how much it is a problem. If you compare our pay to other call centers, you will laugh. And our call volume is one of the highest. New York City call volume is one of the highest. So I would like someone to make it make sense to me. How is it that our staffing is low, our call volume is one of the highest, but we are the least paid? That makes absolutely no sense at all. I don't think anyone can understand that. So yes, we understand, and we do the job. No matter what they say, the job gets done. The staffing is low, the job gets done. We don't get paid enough, the job gets done, because we know it's our importance, the job that we work. Trust and believe, our members do. But we are all human, we're not robots. The body gives out when it gives out. We work hard every day. It's not a light day at no point in time. It's not a light day. Once again, I'll say this again. The inspector, he works with us. He's one of the best inspectors that we have. I could go on record and say that. But what I'm saying to you, some problems is kind of bigger than the inspector. You could bring in, I think we said we have like 80-something people coming in the training. That's not fail-safe, meaning we don't know if the members are going to pass the test that we have, right? So we have to have a test. We don't know how many people are going to pass. By the time the 6 months over, you could get 100 people. 100 people already left. 150 people already left. And don't let us, once again, don't let us have a city exam. It's more. So we have to focus on the pay and how to retain the staff. But thank you once again.
Yes.
I appreciate
that
it.
message is clear to us about retention. It's also clear to us that even if the inspector has good intentions and is hands-on, if the system is broken, it is never going to work because your attrition level is so high that it never catches up to the actual need. And the reasons why is because of the pay, which is at the end of it, and also the working conditions, right? So we're clear on that. And I guess our job here is to have, and this is why these hearings are important, to bring this to the level of consciousness so that the city is compelled to move. And we're going to continue to do what we can to make sure that happens.
I just want to say one thing also in regards to scheduling.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, so think about it as this. So if I'm a PCT, I would much rather work 16 hours for 3 days and have 4 days off so I could recruit, I could do these things, right? If right now we are on sort of a compress and the direction that we're going is kind to go away from 3 days on, 4 days off to go to 4 days on to 3 days off. Regardless of what schedule we got, we're gonna get overtime. So our members will much rather do a double 3 days in a row and have 4 days off than to do 16 hours for 5 days or 16 hours for 4 days, right? That it just makes more sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming here and sharing your thoughts and your experiences today. We really appreciate it. We have gratitude for your service to the city, and we're going to keep talking about this. So thank you all for coming. If there's anyone in the chamber who wishes to speak but has not yet had the opportunity to do so, please raise your hand and fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms in the back of the room. Seeing no hands in the chamber, we will now shift to Zoom testimony. And our first and only panelist is Ileana Gordon. Thank you. Ileana, when you're unmuted, you may begin.
You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon, Councilman De La Rosa. Thank you for this opportunity. I must say that the last time I spoke with you in 2022, the same problem persists. It has gotten worse. As my coworker said, there are people sleeping in shelters, people sleeping at at PSAC, inside the PSAC, because they're sleeping there because of the excessive overtime. They're sleeping there also by choice because sometimes they don't have nowhere else to go. It's so sad that in New York City, right, with the city that has the budget that rivals of a developing country, that we can't pay our city workers. The Eric Adams administration has significantly failed us. We cannot afford to live in the city, right? We've been treated by the Eric Adams administration literally like human waste. My coworkers cannot afford to live in the city. The aim of the city, the aim of the NYPD should be to recruit, retain, and develop. And they have been stuck in the retaining stage for more than 15 years because they cannot retain labor. They're only able to recruit. Like, what is the sense in recruiting when you're not able to retain and develop? You cannot get a phase 2 and phase 3. People are not staying. They're saying they're going to hire people. Those people are not going to stay. They're going to make biweekly $1,000 in New York City. They are not going to stay. All this money spending on recruiting, these people are not going to stay. The system is broken.
Time's expired.
I don't know when will it be fixed, but it's not. My coworkers are suffering.
Yes. Thank you, Ileana. I know that you and I have had multiple conversations on this issue, and I appreciate you for your comments and your continued advocacy. I appreciate you being here today. If you're currently on Zoom and wish to speak but have not yet had the opportunity to do so, please use the raise hand function and our staff will unmute you. Seeing no hands, I would like to note that everyone can submit written testimony. Okay. We have one more person in person, Christopher Leon Johnson. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Christopher Leon Johnson. Thank you for having this hearing. It came from Victims' Rights Rally of Maud Marin. Was a better break Craven. I know, me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
All right, so I'm here to show my support to the people that work for OEM. I think that the city council needs to start protecting the female people more, the female employees more, and this stuff. You know, today is this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I believe that the city council need to put more initiatives to protect the city workers, especially for the people that work in OEM. I'm calling the city council to really step up their game when it comes to really showing proof that they support women in the workplace, because females get abused all the time in these city workplaces and nothing ever happens. So that's basically, that's all I gotta say. And thank you so much. Enjoy your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We thank the administration and the public for attending this hearing and sharing your thoughts on this oversight topic, and we recognize the importance of the topic, and will continue to work to make positive strides for these workers of our city that are essential. I look forward to following up and continuing to work with the chairs. And with that, this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you all so much.